Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here with our professional of the year. As always, excited to welcome Randy Swaim joining us, Marshall Goldsmith, certified executive coach and founder of Coaching for Relevance, joining us live today from the Dallas Fort Worth, Texas area. And we're excited to talk more about leadership, his work as an executive coach, as a pilot, as a trainer, as a friend, as a grandfather. PhD work, he does it all. And we're excited to talk about the upcoming movie. Go ahead, Randy. It's your list is getting longer and longer. Tell us a little bit about the company, and you're so modest, but you do help many executives out there.
Well, I just most of my goal right now, I have worked with some executives before stuff, but most of my goals right now deal with professionals and pilots and pilot flight crews, not just in the pilot stuff, but in the processing and the neuroscience ability, the decision making, and all of that. And so a lot of the people, most of the people that I work with, I bring some of that, the coaching perspectives and the neuroscience perspectives to play, and that is with people that are professionals and all that. But a lot of people, in fact, I'll just share this just very quickly. But there's a lot of people on LinkedIn and stuff like that that have connected with me seem to like some of the stuff that they see, I guess. And there's had one guy that wanted to connect with me yesterday, and he said he's looked at a lot of these podcasts, these radio shows that are on my YouTube channel, like this one. And he said he just made some amazing comments about it. And he said, I want to connect with you, kind of thing. So, some good stuff on that. So it's just great. And I'm really looking forward to the Hollywood movie being out. They said that they're going to make it available to the public in December 14th. And so it's, I know Hollywood has completed it all. And so just going through the process to get it all started and everything. So kind of amazed at that.
Me too. Thank you. Great to hear the updates, and always fascinated by your work. And let me just ask, as a leader, you must get up early, right? I feel like the early bird catches the worm. Is that part of being successful, would you say? Really? I'm sure you're very regimented with your sleep patterns too.
Yeah, well, they vary a little bit, but I will say this, that I'm up early every day, and that is a part of what I do. I'm usually up around 5 o'clock in the morning. If there's an early time where I got to meet with pilots and stuff, sometimes I'll get up at 4 a.m. But generally about 5 a.m. is my normal wake up time, and get ready, get going and stuff. So yeah, very, very key. And when you're talking about connecting with people, and some of the stuff I was going to mention today, in the show and all, it's a little bit different than a lot of people realize. And so it's bringing the coaching awareness, the neuroscience awareness of the brain and the processing and decision making and all of that. Bringing all that to help people is definitely something that I do for sure.
Thank you. And what did you have in mind for our leadership discussion today? Any insights, anything relevant to our news, what's happening in the world today, and how you're able to help people, and the benefits of leaders, and really standing out as a leader in whatever field it is you're in?
You know what I thought I was going to do today is bring out a concept that you hear a lot of people saying about leaders today, but I'm going to take it to a deeper level of meaning, because it's something that a lot of people don't fully really understand. And my friend, I know you've heard some people say that the leader does not serve the customers. The leader serves their team, and the team serves the customers, kind of thing. And there's that quote that's been out there, and there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth to that in terms of developing your people. But I will also say here, with what I was going to bring out, and then you can interject any questions or comments you want to. But and this is a quote from Simon Sinek. but it's a good quote. It says the ability of a group of people to do remarkable things hinges on how well those people pull together as a team. And you know what? When you're talking about leading your team, it's not just about you telling them what to do. It's not when you're talking about serving your team so that they can become and they can truly, make radical success happen. That doesn't happen because you just tell them what to do. If you do that, you're not getting the job done, and you're not making it. And the thing about it is, on this quote, it said how well those people pull together as a team. That does not necessarily mean that every single person on the team is thinking exactly right. Because guess what? They all have different backgrounds. It doesn't mean that one or two of them may have some insights that are aligned and you know aligned with this that maybe somebody else doesn't have. Who knows? But how you pull all that together as a oneness team is how success happens. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And when you're talking about a leader, if your only focus is on pointing fingers and telling people what to do and dictating to them and all of that kind of stuff, they are not processing. If you understand the neuroscience in our brain and the processing ability of our brain to see and uncover and strategize those dramatic success levels that they can get to and stuff. you know if you're doing that, you're not letting them do that. And in fact what you're doing is you're shutting off their awareness and brain, because they're just shutting off their brain saying, okay, well, I guess this is it. you know we'll just do this, kind of thing. And when the factors are unusual, and this is very aligned with organizational maneuverability, which, as you kind of hinted at, kind of thing, was that in today's world, not everything is rote academic. When you see the factors that come on scene in a given situation that your team is uh, working through and everything. And are you aware of what things are different as they're coming in? Are you aware of what we need to do as a team, as a oneness, and to really make this successful? And if all you're doing as a leader is just telling people what to do, you're not serving them. Serving them has a deeper meaning in terms of how you're helping develop them and provide an environment where they can grow and become and reach radical success, even when you're not there, kind of thing. That is what is called by truly serving. And I think I remember a show a long time ago that I think you were the host on. So I don't know, you may vaguely remember this, but when I was a site manager at Griffiths Air Force Base up in New York, they you may remember me sharing a brief message that we had a team meeting in our main room there, and there was about 8 of us in there, but we're all the pilots, but also the mechanics, and we were just kind of talking about some things. But as the manager, I realized that some of the questions they were asking just each other and all that were outstanding questions. And all I did, I listened to where they were going with that, and it was good stuff. And one of the guys actually sat down and was going to write up a bunch of notes, but he saw me standing there and he froze and he looked at me like this. And all I did is I looked at him and I winked and I nodded my head, because I could tell they were going to a good decision, but I was letting them take the steps on that, without just sort of dictating them and shutting their brains off and everything. And we were represented for a really successful team for what we did there. That was about 30 years ago or so, but it was just when you're talking about this aspect of leading your team and really getting the team together, that isn't just about you as a leader coming in and dictating to people. Now, is there a time where you may need to kind of throw something out? Yes, there might be. if you're talking about your your team performing in a unpredictable, rapidly changing environment where not everything is rote academic, guess what? There may be something where you have to kind of throw out an insight or an aspect about it that make them want to follow that, uh, or whatever. But a lot of other teams, if you're truly developing your team well, they are developing to the point where they can envision some of that stuff. And when the unexpected factors come on scene, they can make radical success out of it. And when you talk about it, it doesn't mean that just one person's going to dictate to everybody else and take control freak. No, because that's not being a team necessarily. Now, if they bring out an insight and everybody, including you, go, good insight, guess what? That's good. But the bottom line is when you're talking about these aspects and you talk about your people pulling together as a team, that doesn't mean everybody just shuts their brain off and listens to you. Now, depending on the circumstances, maybe uh, that is a brief thing for the team to walk through. But you know what? If you're leading the team in such a way that they don't bring any of that awareness out, any of that thinking, or anything like that, you're not getting the job done, and you're not fully preparing them for radical success. And so when you think about this aspect of doing this and really bringing your team on board, and bringing this aspect of kind of seeing how they need to gain real success out of this. It's not something where you want to just be shutting their brain off and just obey you. Now, in a rapidly changing environment where it's very radical and a lot of stuff is about to be destroyed, yeah, you may need to do that. But that's not something that is sort of routine that you want to be the focus. Because if you're shutting their brain off and just having them go with you, that's not really getting the job done. And it's not developing their ability to process and see the situations, uh, and bring it all together. And so it's just something to think about, that when people think about that, particularly in a rapidly changing or a sort of an unpredictable situation. Um, what I would throw out to anybody that's listening is just saying, what are some things that perhaps you and your team, um, were faced with at some point, and what did you take away from that? And what may have made it better, who knows? Um, because if your mindset as a leader, now I will say this, that a lot of the ways that you can develop your team's ability to handle radical success like that is when you get their thinking going even before the event is coming on scene. And if all you do is wait until a challenging situation come on, what you're probably doing is letting them just shut their brain off and wait until you tell them what to do. And if you do that, you're not developing your team to be able to perform when all the factors are not just rote academic. And and that's just a couple of things to think about. And so when you look at this quote again, the ability of a group of people to do remarkable things hinges on how well these people pull together as a team. And that doesn't mean that they shut their brain off and just go with this. No, it means they're thinking. And while they're stepping forward, they're also aware of when unique factors come on board that nobody was aware of, that nobody expected would come on scene. And you may have to adapt it just a little bit. You may have to tweak and adjust a little bit. And are they ready to do that? And it's just something to think about when you're talking about a somewhat of a challenging environment. This aspect of what you need to be looking at with your team. Um, and like I said, when I was standing there and I saw my team coming up with a couple of things, and the guy was sitting down to make notes, and he froze and he just looked at me, and all I did is I nodded and I winked at him and smiled. And immediately he smiled back at me and sat down and jotted some notes and everything, because I was saying, yeah, you guys are going in a good direction. Good. Keep going, kind of thing. And but I will say this also, that what a lot of people in today's world have a tendency to do is to try to make everybody on your team think exactly the same, and do the, be aware of exactly the same things. Well, to a certain extent that can be good, but keep in mind that when each person on your team has a little bit of a different background in their journey, you may have one person that has an insight that another person didn't have. And guess what? When they communicate that, there's one thing that can be very beneficial when it's communicated and everybody see the value of it. But if it's communicated in such a way where everybody thinks that they're just commanding them and controlling them to do it this way,
Mm-hmm.
that's not leadership, and that's not getting where you need to go. And so it's just something to think about, that when you're talking about challenging situations like this, and you talk about what it means to really serve your people as a leader, it's not just about dictating all the time. There are some times where you need to, no two ways about it. Um, but but if that's your only technique, you're not really getting the job done. One of the ways, that you serve your team is to really engage in them in such a way where they don't just shut their brain off and just kind of put in their pocket what you just said, but you get them thinking and you get their mental processing
Yep.
going, so they
Mm-hmm.
can come up with the radical solutions and things of that nature. And so, people need to realize that when you talk about serving your people, that and even if you're talking, it sounds crazy, but even if you talk about family members and you're talking about serving your family members, that doesn't mean just dictating to them and telling them what to do necessarily. It means getting their thinking going and stuff like that. But with your team, um, getting some aspects of that going. And I tell you, when you do get that aspects of thinking and the processing and the developing clarity on the vision of it and all of this, when you get that developed, guess what? They can also be aware of unexpected things that might get in the way that they didn't realize, that they weren't thinking about beforehand. And they can be ready for it if something else comes on the scene where, boy, they can get past it real quick. And so it's just something to think about that a lot of people don't realize. And it brings this aspect of, when you're talking about leading your teams and serving your teams, it's really about using a coaching facilitative approach rather than just a narcissistic dictatorial approach. Now, if it's something that's happening right now that needs to be done in 5 minutes, okay, you may have to tell somebody what to do. You may have to, do that. But that is so rare, really, for the most part in today's world. You don't need to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
if you get to points where you have to do that, what is telling you is that you didn't really develop your team. You didn't truly serve them prior to that. And
True.
so it's just some things to think about when you talk about this aspect of serving your team and bringing the coaching facilitative style, but also the neuroscience awareness of the processing in your brain and the mindset and how you're developing your decisions and how you're developing your awareness and how you're developing the clarity of real success on this. And it's not superficial, but that part of it is a key part of what real serving your team really is. It's not just, if they're just sitting there waiting for you to tell them what to do, that's not good. And it's
Got it.
not related to that. And to be honest, you're not really serving them. Now, I will say this, that in the heat of the battle, in one particular situation, and somebody's not sure, there might be one time where you got to kind of mention something. But guess what?
Yeah.
After all of that, do you have a conversation where it helps them get a sense of the reality of it and all
Yeah.
that, so that if it ever happens again, they are much more ready for the success. And so it's just something to think, we talk about. It's a deeper insight, a deeper meaning of this aspect of serving your team. It's not about just dictating to them, calling them by name and telling them what to do or whatever like that, because you're not growing your team and you're not developing your organization's success if that's where your focus is. But when you're talking about truly serving your team, it's about working with your team in such a way that all of that is being developed
Yeah.
as they go forward. And it's just something to think about that a lot of people don't realize. Like I say, it's a little bit of a deeper meaning of the concept of serving your team. And
Mhm.
but that's a critical aspect that a lot of people don't totally think about. And
Mm.
it's just something to think about when you're a leader. What are you really doing to serve your team? And
Yeah.
you don't want to be shutting their brain off or anything like that. So just something to think about.
Shutting their brain off. I like that. Now, is there ever a time where you got
Yeah,
to take that, but as a leader, or is there times you have to take the back seat, right? You can't always lead, even if you're a leader. You
yeah.
have to be,
And to be very honest, and by the way, that's a
that
very
makes a
good
good leader.
question,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll tell you what, when your people are coming to a certain point, there is a time where if you were the one on my team that was sitting there like that, there is a time where I might look at you and go, take this one. And where do you want to take it? Oh, then you tell me, and I go, okay, take it there. And you might have a question that you ask somebody about, okay, what's the risk you got to look out for?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Good, buddy. Good. Well, I'll tell you what, step forward, and so there are times when you can develop the ability in your team to be able to do that when you're doing that. And it might be that, when you're talking about the team, not only is one person stepping forward, but as they're stepping forward, is the team still pulling together as a team to do that as they step forward. And it might be that, person A here has a background that's related to what he's got to deal with here. And person B here has a different background that when something else comes on scene, they
Yep.
can address that and they can play a leadership role in the team. And that's also one way where you can develop leadership in your people and really grow your people and really to grow your team in such a way that radical success can happen. And you know what? It's amazing. And I think I've shared this before, but it's amazing when radical success can happen, even when you were sick and weren't at work today. When something happens and you're not there because you're at home, you had sick or you had were vomiting or whatever, I don't know, kind of thing.
Mm.
You're at home and you're sick, but something comes on scene and
And
your team works in such a way that your boss goes, wow, wow.
yeah.
And when you come in, you have a conversation. I will say this, that I was teaching a class. This was, holy cow, this is about 30, probably about 30 years ago, kind of thing, um, with the aviation group. And I was, uh, relating to a group of pilots. I was teaching a class to a group of pilots. Um, and when I first came in, they had some questions. I could tell they were struggling with some things that were not specifically related to what we were going to be dealing with here. And one of the things that happened as we're sitting there, I interjected and I let them kind of communicate to get sort of out of their mind a little bit, but to communicate what they were sort of struggling with a little bit. And while we're doing that, the guy that was sort of the head of the group walked up, and I could tell he was outside going, well, he went and he got the senior manager of the building to come over. But by the time he came in, and I saw him in the little hallway out there outside the door, and by the time he got there, we were working on what we were supposed to work on because they had gotten through it a little bit and all that. Well, at the very end of when the class was done, I was walking out and he was on the stairs and we were just chatting and he said, "Randy, you did amazing to go with what you did, however you did it." You did amazing. But it's one aspect about that where I got them to kind of communicate and go with what they were sensing and feeling right then.
Yeah.
I was serving them. And guess what? They got to a point where they could do it. And there was one of the guys in the class back in the Vietnam War, had shot down, was a was kind of an ace because he had shot down 2 MiGs, kind of thing way back then and everything. But he was a instructor there, and he was in that class. And at the end of our, 5 or 10 minutes while we were kind of doing that,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of that, he looked at me, and I'll never forget this. He looked at me and he said, "Randy, I got to tell you something." I said, "What's that, buddy?" And he looked at me, he said, "I'll follow you any day of the week."
Yeah. Wow.
And I said, "You know what, buddy? I appreciate that. I'm humbled by that. Thank you." And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
But it's to go with what you said, there are times when how you interact with that, again, how you serve your people,
Yeah.
but how you interact with the processing awareness and that aspect of it, but also the coaching perspective of leadership and everything, how you're doing that
Yes. Yeah.
make sure people grow and can make radical success happen.
Well,
But if
thank you,
you're just
Randy.
stepping in and doing it, you just don't have time. You're not getting it done. So just something to think about. How you serve your people. That's a little bit of a deeper, realistic meaning than a lot of people think.
All right. Coachingforrelevance.com. That's how you can reach out. And any other, do you want to leave a phone number or anything, Randy, in case someone does want to contact you that way?
I'll tell you what, I'll just share this with you. I'll give you my phone number, but you may not remember it. If you got your pencil, you can put it down there. It's 817-880-4749. But if you go to my Coaching for Relevance website, at the very bottom of the homepage there, you'll see my email and my cell phone number and stuff. So if somebody wants to call me, they can. And as you know, I don't do cold call sale pitches or anything like that. If somebody calls me and they have a need of something, yeah, we'll come up with something. But
Beautiful.
If they just want to have a
Thank you.
conversation, we can do that.
Thank you, Randy.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.